why the return of Lungu's body today was in fact delayed?
Well, I think there's still some tension between government and the family, and of course I think the party that Lungu belongs to. And you know that yesterday there was an announcement by the Department of International Relations that at 8 o'clock there will be a ceremony at Lanseria Airport, and we must be there. We arrived there as early as 6 in the morning, as you know, that we have to ensure that we are positioned at the right place, but also issues of security clearance and to ensure that we are able to capture the arrival of the dignitaries. We arrived there early and we waited until towards lunchtime. Then we saw the officials of the Defense Force who were there, who were supposed to conduct ceremonies as part of the send-off, rolling back the red carpet, and we were confused as to what's happening. You could see that there was tension now, and nobody wanted to explain what was happening. But we then saw on social media that the family has issued a statement saying that they don't agree with the government of Zambia in terms of the process of repatriation, particularly as it relates to arrival of the body in Zambia, what needs to happen. And they were saying that government has changed all the plans that they agreed on. But we were not able to get the Zambian authorities to explain their side of a story in terms of all of this. And now, actually, I got suspicious when I saw that there were no crew. The plane was there. We waited, and I couldn't see the crew, and therefore I started asking questions. And therefore, unfortunately, that's when we're told that it's not going to happen anymore. We don't know when will the repatriation happen, and there's a backlash both in Zambia and in South Africa because this process now has taken so long now.
And where does this leave, Sophie, for instance, the South African government, because they too had been commenting on what was expected to happen today, and ultimately the breakdown in the relationship between the Lungu family and the government back home has led us to this rather awkward, if not embarrassing, scenario?
I think the South African government is very embarrassed. I mean, remember, DERCO issued a statement yesterday, and I don't think the South African government is happy. I don't think Pretoria is happy because they made all the arrangements. You can imagine that embarrassment at the airport. You had officials from the South African National Defense Force, and they were trying to accord the late President Edgar Lungu the dignity he deserves from South African side. And South Africa has done a lot since the standoff between the government of Zambia and the family of President Edgar Lungu. And I think much as diplomatically, they won't go public and express disappointment and anger and embarrassment, but I don't think behind the scenes it's normal. And I mean, that was an embarrassment. As I pointed out, as media, we arrived at 6 o'clock. SABC crew, we arrived 6 o'clock because we believe in being early and being ready. And then we were told at 8 formalities will start. And then later we saw a program saying it's starting at 10. And then finally, around lunchtime, it didn't happen. And you can imagine the frustration from the Department of International Relations, including the Defense Force, because there were senior officials of the Defense Force.
And the Lungu family has now been speaking, it appears, at least to international media, saying that they didn't believe that the government back home would be able to keep its end of their agreement that was supposed to have facilitated today's repatriation. Why is it exactly that the relationship has broken down so badly between them?
Remember, when Hichilema was on the opposition bench, President Lungu ill-treated him, truth be told. He was always harassed. He was always arrested. And when he got into power, then things changed. Now it was the late former President Lungu accusing the current president of harassment and ill-treatment, including the allegations that the government of Zambia didn't allow him to come to South Africa for treatment. They didn't support him. The allegations denied by the Zambian authorities. And therefore, it's the political fight. And now it has become a serious problem where the family now is affected. But you can see that behind all this, there's also politics. And I don't know, going forward, how is Zambia, the Lungu family and his party are going to handle this issue going forward? Because now the body is still in South Africa. I mean, so many days on, and we don't know what's going to happen. And also, you can imagine the expenditure, because to have that big, massive plane there at Lanseria, they have to pay. They also have to pay the crew. They have to pay the services of that chartered plane that is massive. And therefore, I think a lot is not going to go well, particularly post this standoff and this embarrassment. We don't even know when will that body be repatriated and who is going to take over or assist in terms of resources. And I think for South African government, I don't think the South African government is happy. I don't think Pretoria is happy.
So a great number of unknowns tonight. We don't know when the body will be repatriated. We don't even know if Lungu's funeral will still happen as expected on Monday. There's the extension to the period of mourning. We don't know where this will leave that. And it makes you wonder what this is going to do, or what sort of reaction it will elicit from his supporters back home, who would have wanted to gather to give him a fitting farewell as their former president and leader of their political party.
Particularly ahead of elections. You know, Zambia is going to elections next year. And I think all these tensions are part of what's going to happen next year, and everybody trying to have a say in terms of what needs to happen going forward. And you have others who are saying President Hakainde shouldn't preside over this funeral, even though it's a state funeral. On the other hand, government is saying because he was a former head of state, government must be involved. So it's a real terrible standoff.
SABC News international editor Sophie Mkwena keeping us across the latest dramatic developments, certainly around the failed, at this point, repatriation of the body of the former Zambian president Edgar Lungu.